welcome to the webinar. Yesterday, we had the first part of a full webinar series just on the tree of health. And we had Dr. Benjamin Beckler and Lyle Wilson on a webinar introducing this concept of the tree of health. For those who missed it, it's a new holistic way to look at personal health based on a principle in traditional Chinese medicine called the root and branch theory. If you view the health of the human body as a tree, we have roots that are our internal processes and what's occurring on a cellular level, and we have branches. That it's how we look and feel. So when we feel great, that's because our roots are strong and healthy. When we feel bad, it may mean that we need additional support on a cellular level. We are proud to have a family of products that give a strong foundation to help your body to be healthy at both the root and branch levels, and a complete system that provides a holistic approach to how you feel every day and give your body the support it needs to be healthy. Today, we are going to give a quick recap about what the tree of health concept is and how it works and how it can help to achieve optimal wellness. And then Dr. Ben will give an in-depth training on omega-3 essential fatty acids. So if you have any questions, you feel free to write down in the chat box. So we'll try to address your questions at the end of the session. And that said, I'll hand over to Dr. Ben to learn more about omega-3 essential fatty acids.
Well, hello, everyone. It truly is an honor and a privilege to be with you again on another Tree of Health webinar. As Antonella said, the Tree of Health concept really is rooted in Chinese ancient medicine, and it's the concept of the human body compared to a tree, and where we find the roots and branches used in comparison to different areas of our lives and our health. Branches represent our daily experiences. They represent really what we see and what we feel, and how our health is manifesting itself and interacting with our world around us. Those roots represent the cellular processes, the things that we don't see or even think about. I want you to think in your mind of your favorite tree of growing up as a kid. Maybe I'm closing my eyes here. I'm thinking of one that I used to climb. I used to climb too high, and my mom and dad would say, "Get down." I want you to draw that picture in your head and think of those branches and the beautiful leaves and blooms that tree would have. You knew that below the ground was a massive structure, a huge structure of roots, and these roots themselves had intricate processes going on for nutrient delivery and were tied really to the health of the tree. And if those roots were damaged or not taken care of, we knew that tree could perish, or that it could start to wilt, and that it would display signs of ill health. And so that's how we think about really in comparison to our health, and really using with NHT a combination of three very special products that work in different ways to support really that root system of our health, and then to help bring forward then positive changes in our branch system and our daily experiences, in our mood, in our physical and emotional, spiritual aspects of our lives. So really, I want you to take away from this introductory slide here on Tree of Health. One is that there are many things that go on in our body that we don't appreciate or even think about, but they're going on all the time. Number two is that our body needs to have continual nourishment, just like that tree. If there is a drought, we know that the tree will wither, it will not bear fruit. We know that there isn't proper nutrients in the soil, that tree will see the consequences. And number three is that it's nourishment over time. It's not just once, but it's over time. The tree needs support over time to grow. It just doesn't go from small to big in a month. It does that over years. And so a commitment to our health over the long term is what bears a big, beautiful tree that provides shade in the summertime and branches for kids to play on. And in comparison to our bodies, results in a resilient, strong, healthy body that helps us harness our own potential. Next slide, please. And so when we think about the tree of health and really our 3 products that form the basis of that nutritional foundation, we have 3 products, and first we're starting out today with the omega-3 essential fatty acids, and they truly are essential elements to good health. And I would like to actually remove the word good and say great. We know that these nutrients are so critical because they are a part of almost every single cell in our body, every single organ system. And they are critical for our body to not only survive, but to thrive. And studies show we simply are not getting enough of the good, healthy fats in our diet. And this forms the first pillar, the first component for supporting that tree of health concept. So the first is the omega-3, and then we have the stem renew, and then we have the restore. Those 3 products form the trio for the tree of health. Today's webinar is dedicated to the omega-3. So let's go a little more in depth on the omega-3s, why they're important to your body, and some exciting new released approved health claims for the omega-3s that I'm very excited to share with you based on the potency and strength of the NHT formula. So next slide, please. So as many of you may know from meeting me or from other webinars, I am a medical doctor. I went to medical school at the University of Minnesota. I went there and then did my residency and additional professional training at the University of Minnesota Hospital and Clinics in family medicine, as well as had additional training in integrative and complementary health. I came on as staff there. I taught medical students and residents, as well as in the pharmacy school. My undergraduate degree at University of Wisconsin was in immunology and medical microbiology, which also included virology. And I'm very active in nutritional consultations, seeing patients, helping them harness their own body's potential for health and wellness, and also serve as the chief medical and scientific officer for a nutri-pharma company called Immunonutrient Laboratories. And as such, I'm the formulator of the omega-3 essential fatty acids, stem renew trietine, and the botanical hand protector. And so it's really harnessing my love of science and my love of natural health together. And I find tremendous joy in teaching, training, and making natural products that help people in their health and wellness. And so I would encourage each and every one of you in your own lives, know that you don't need to be a doctor, know that you don't need to be a health professional to be invested in your health, to be someone who cares about integrative therapies and taking actions. We all are the coaches of our own bodies. We are the coach of our own teams, of our own trees, so to speak. And it's your health professionals around you who are there to help. And so be invested, choose health, and care about others. Talk to others about their health. Encourage them to take daily healthy choices and steps in their own lives, from simply just going for a walk after dinner to using great nutritional health products to healthy dietary choices to maybe planting a tomato and some basil for summertime now in certain parts of the world. So let's all choose health on a daily basis. Next slide. When we think about the omega-3s and we think about what makes them special, here is a slide of a cell in your body. And what I want you to take away is that every single cell in your body has fatty acids within them. And now I'm going to go back to the tree analogy, okay? So every single tree needs a structure, a scaffold, and it needs nutrients to help support and keep that healthy. And the tree incorporates nutrients into that internal strength and structure. But here's the key part. What is in the soil and around the tree is what is incorporated. If there are unhealthy things, if someone were, say, for example, to pour chemicals or pesticides into the soil around a tree, that tree would absorb them, wither, and die. Why? Because trees, living organisms, absorb, take in. They are looking for nutrients to really provide strength for their structure and their function. And so why this is important, this is a very, very key point. It is our body needs fat to survive. It needs fat to thrive and for bodily functions. Every single cell membrane has to have that round structure on the outside of the cell that's made of fats. But the key is your body will take the fats in the diet and incorporate them. If we take in unhealthy trans fats, if we take in a lot of saturated fats, other types of fats from unhealthy sources, we will be incorporating in substances which are unhealthy for our body, which can lead to changes in cellular structure and also body function, signaling mechanisms, because these fatty acids not only provide structural support in that membrane, but they drive pathways that send signals in the body. And one very special pathway is called the eicosanoid pathway. It's kind of scientific, but what it's related to is inflammation. The omega-3s and the types of fats in your body are intimately tied to the inflammatory state in your body. And that's really important to take away. Now, I need to say right away that the omega-3 product and all the NHT products, they do not treat, reduce, or cure any disease, but instead they provide nutritional support for your body. They help your body harness its own potential. But because the omega-3s are essential, meaning your body doesn't make them and it needs them, and because they're a component of every cell membrane, as well as participate in many, many body processes, they are foundational building blocks for health. And scientific studies show we aren't getting enough of those omega-3 essential fatty acids. And what makes the omega-3s so special is they are those great for your body fats, those ones that have been studied. And in particular, there are some very special types of omega-3s. And we're going to talk about EPA and DHA. Those are their nicknames: eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, and some brothers and sisters like DPA, for example. But those are in the formula too, and we'll get to that. But I want you to remember from this slide and from this talk that your body needs replenishment. Your body needs daily nourishment of the omega-3s. That's why there is a recommendation for daily/weekly intake of the omega-3s. And it's very exciting that the NHT omega-3 product, at least in the United States, has two FDA, it meets the requirements for two FDA claims. One, for its potential that it may reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And then secondly, that EPA and DHA may help contribute to healthy blood pressure levels and lowering of blood pressure. It's important, again, these are FDA statements and claims based on potency. And that while the data is still inconclusive sometimes when we look at it, that for the FDA to make those statements and allow them about products, nutritional products that meet certain requirements, that's very powerful. And the NHT product does meet those requirements for those claims. That's how I formulated the product, to be strong, potent, and pure. So next slide. So this is a little review. Again, we get fats in our diet. There are good fats and bad fats, right? The fats that are coming in from various types of pastries and otherwise, or a lot of red meat, we really need to be cautious about overdoing it. Those types of fats can be inflammatory in the body. They can contribute to ill health. We know that they can contribute to cardiovascular problems and weight gain, hormonal issues. Even certain types of fats are associated with improper cellular replication, right? So we want ourselves to do the right thing. We want our bodies to really have the basis and foundation for resilience to step forward. And that first point on this slide, not made by the body, must be obtained through food or supplementation. The best source of our nutrients is from our food. We simply just don't get enough, or in certain parts of the world. And when we look at the research on the omega-3s, we see the recommendations increasing, especially for certain health challenges. Salmon is a great source of omega-3s, EPA, DHA, but you're going to need to eat 2 very large salmon steaks every single week to get the bare minimum of what is recommended. And so it can be challenging if we're simply relying on diet alone. The omega-3 essential fatty acids, in particular EPA and DHA, maintain normal physiology and cell function and structure of the human body. I want to focus on the word normal. I mean, if I could just keep my body healthy and normal for the rest of my life, that would be great, right? Normal means a lot. That is a huge win for our health. And the last point is that the omega-3s are very beneficial for cardiovascular and overall body health. The omega-3s got famous for their role in cardiovascular or heart, blood pressure, inflammatory aspects. We really look the inside of blood vessels, heart rhythm and beating. And there's been debate over the years about, well, how good are they? So you may have read in scientific journals or in the papers where people have wondered, how good are the omega-3s? Are they as good as originally thought? And so what we know for certain is that the omega-3s, without question, are very beneficial for our health. They're good for our cardiovascular system. They're good for our brain and our joints and vision, and they are critical essential nutrients. So it's hard to overlook that these are essential nutrients, meaning your body doesn't make them, has to have them. And when we look at the subset studies, they are amazing when you go into the research. Many times when we pull lots and lots of research together, sometimes the results can be harder to decipher. But there's no question amongst the scientific community that the omega-3s possess many, many health positive and benefiting properties. The question or the argument among scientists and doctors is, well, how many, how much, how good? Is it good or is it great? But there's no question these are very beneficial substances for the human body. Next slide. So when we think about the omega-3s in our body, and when we think about characteristics that we are looking for, we want to make sure that when we are supporting our tree, it's very much thinking about we want the very best for it. We want the best nutrients. We want best and pure water for that tree, right? We wouldn't want water that's contaminated. We would want the nutrients to be strong and potent and the right ones. And I often use the analogy of a sports team, a soccer team, that if you were the coach of a soccer team, you would want the most valuable players. And so the superstars, my son, he has a favorite, he plays soccer, and I think Mbappe, I think, is his favorite soccer player in France. So I hope that doesn't upset anyone in Europe, but that is his favorite player. But EPA and DHA are the superstars of the omega-3 team. Now there's brothers and sisters, there's other players on the team, but what I want you to know is we have incorporated very high levels of EPA and DHA along with the other brothers and sisters that are needed on that team, the other nutrients that are needed to keep the tree strong. So next slide, please. What's very interesting is when we think about what separates products in the marketplace, and if you were to design one yourself, I'm sure you will agree that you would want a product that is strong, meaning it's potent. So that's our first criteria, potency. Second is superior purity, meaning that it's safe, it's pure. anytime we take substances from nature, we need to test that product. When we're concentrating, I want you to imagine taking thousands of fish, getting all this oil, and then concentrating it. We need to test that, not just for the actives. It goes through multiple steps of purification, distillation, separation to get the right balance and ratios. But if all we did was just focus on EPA and DHA and the other omega-3s, we would be missing a big part of the equation. And that part is safety. Because we're concentrating natural substances, we always need to be aware of potential contaminants. So every batch is tested for heavy metals. We test for over 1,200 contaminants, environmental and otherwise, that may be in the product. And I'm happy to say they're not. This is a product I give to my son every single day. I take this from my family, my mom, my dad, everyone around me. And so it's important to me personally and from an ethical and moral standpoint, those who participate in the production and the design of nutritional products have a special responsibility, and those who share. All of you here on the line today, if you make the recommendation of the omega-3 or another NHT product, you're putting your own personal integrity on the line. You're trusting that that product is safe, that it's been tested, and you're putting your name behind it. And so I want you to know and be assured that every single batch is tested for purity, for potency, and then finally, superior taste and the aroma and experience. We use a natural flavoring system, a natural citrus system, in addition to the very, very strong end result purity we get through the manufacturing process. So it's the purity of the oil with the natural flavoring system that provides a wonderful aroma, a wonderful natural aroma, taste, as well as aspects for repeat and so people don't belch of fish oil, which would be gross, according to my son. And so the other part of this that's really important is remember that 2 soft gels per day, and we'll get into the dosing, but 2 soft gels per day is the minimum dosing. And in many instances, we want to increase that level. I personally take 4 every day. Some people take 6, and we'll get into why that is. But 2 per day is the minimum. But many other products, when you increase, you'll start to get that fishy odor literally coming out as sweat, coming out as an aroma in the body, and that is really not acceptable to people. The other thing is that other products, when it comes to purity and potency, and specifically potency, there are some products in the marketplace where it will take between 10 and 20 soft gels to equal just what is in 2 of the NHT omega-3. Next slide. So I've touched on some of these points already, but we'll just briefly review the potency. Potency is strength. We base it on the overall amount of omega-3s in the product, but primarily on the EPA and DHA. We need EPA plus DHA to be at least 1,000 milligrams in every soft gel. And actually, we have an overage to ensure that we meet that level for the full entire shelf life of the product. That shelf life is also tied into other techniques and other aspects of antioxidants used to protect the oil, not only during the manufacturing, but also during the shelf life, knowing that it's not only good on day 1, but also at the end of its shelf life. It has a 3-year shelf life, tested at periodic points, saying it's as strong on day 1 as it was at the end of that 3-year, 36-month shelf life, and that the oil is stable, that it hasn't degraded. And we're excited about the formula in relation to that. And that's at room temperature. That's not in a refrigerator. And so we take a lot of time and detail, effort into those surrounding antioxidants that are in the product, the vitamin E, the vitamin C, the rosemary. But not only do we have EPA and DHA from an omega-3 standpoint, we have other omega-3s, one in particular called DPA. That's P as in Paul. That's a special one that you'll be hearing more about, and I'll be doing more training. But DPA is really important for our brains and also the inflammatory state in the body, helping the body be calm. And we'll talk about that on the body benefits section about how the omegas help to calm the body, and especially if someone is dealing with a health challenge. But so the strength of the product is one of the things that makes it very unique and is very important in separating, and that it is consistently tested for this strength. That's another piece that people often overlook is consistency. We need to be consistent in manufacturing. That it's not just the first batch, it's not the second, but it's every single batch, every single time. Next slide. The next slide talks really about another point that I touched on, and that was the purity. Here's a picture of me inspecting the product off of our line in our facility in Minnesota, here in the USA. Our facility is US FDA inspected. We have multiple inspections. We have multiple certifications and trainings we go through. But the purity is tied to the process, the type of fish. We use smaller fish with shorter life cycles to help in purity, as well as we source from pure global waters that are certified friend of the sea friendly, meaning the waters are pure, that the fish are harvested in a sustainable way, and the whole process all the way through has respect for the environment. It's fully refined, it's tested here, it's for more than 500, it's actually for 1,200 potential contaminants. It's made in the USA, of course, from fish that come from global waters. And GMP standards. GMP stands for good manufacturing practice standards. And so that means a lot. Consistency in action, consistency in cleaning and setup and takedown, and the record keeping, and the testing that goes along through it. So the purity is one thing that's often overlooked and not thought about. It's kind of one of those things underneath, like the roots of a tree, that people often don't think about or take for granted that what they put in their body is safe. But it's really important when it comes to dietary supplements. Next slide. Finally, we mentioned already, and a little more here, and that is the taste and aroma and the sensory experience. We use natural citrus flavors, so we don't get a fishy repeat. We don't use sugar. We don't use artificial sweeteners. The soft gels can be chewable, and they're great for kids. Of course, we recommend for children, of course, who are older and able to chew them or swallow. We would never want to give a soft gel, for example, to an infant. That would be very dangerous. Individuals can, however, pierce a soft gel and squeeze the oil into, say, some yogurt or onto a spoon. That's what I did when my children, my son and daughter, were young. So, and now my son, he just chews them in the morning. So, we worked for over 2 years to get the taste right. And it's a delicate flavor. It's not too much, it's not too little, and it's natural. And what I would make the argument is that in the formulation world, anyone can get anything that tastes relatively decent if they use enough artificial flavors. But we don't want to do that. That has its own consequences. We don't believe in using those artificial substances, and you can taste it when you have those products. There are questions about some of these substances that are used by some other manufacturers. So we use natural citrus flavors, very pure oils, and the end result is a product that's very acceptable to consumers and people around the world and to patients. It's interesting, the number one reason that people do not take fish oil and omega-3s specifically is because of fishy odor and fishy taste, even though they know these are very beneficial for their health. And in clinical trials, it's the #1 reason people quit, was the sensory experience, the fishy odor, fishy taste, fishy repeat, GI upset. And so we've checked the box on the potency and on the purity. But if you don't have that experience aspect of really the sensory, of the smell, of the taste, how the mouth feel, you know, if you pop the soft gel in your mouth and you chew it and it comes, how does the oil feel? How does the oil look? Some oils you'll see in the marketplace are cloudy. Why are they cloudy? And so these are things that are different with the NHT omega-3 product. Next slide. So one of the things that is interesting is that the omega-3s are beneficial for so many areas of the body. Why? Because they're essential and they're incorporated into the actual membranes and structural components in our body. Those cellular membranes, remember, they drive cellular pathways. We have a picture of the eye. We know that DHA is found in high concentrations in a specific part of the eye that's very important for vision. We know that DHA, when it comes to infants, is critical in neurologic overall development. You may not know this, but a woman's body has a much higher rate of conversion from just raw omega-3s to EPA and DHA than a man's body. Why? Because a woman's body beautifully is able to bear children. And because of this, nature knows that child needs more of these omega-3s to help it develop in the womb. And so, again, we look to nature, we look to science and God's blueprint, and we really find the omega-3s there as a natural part of the natural world. But when we think about the benefits, what will the omega-3s do for my body? First and foremost, they will nourish it. They are like liquid gold for your body. Your body needs fats. They're also an energy source. Fats are a great source of calories. They're actually very high in caloric aspect. And the right fats actually help our fat metabolism to move and to burn. So they actually help promote a healthy weight when we get and use the right healthy fats in our body. From a cardiovascular perspective, we talked about their benefits a little bit already. They help the heart, the cardiovascular system. How? They promote healthy triglyceride levels. We know this from study after study after study. That's a certain type of fat in the blood, part of your lipids that are measured by your doctor. We know they help promote a healthy heart rhythm. We know they help support healthy pressure within blood vessels. We know they have an impact on calming the inflammatory state of the overall body. And we know all of these things combined have resulted in claims for the product that have been approved. And so we know that it may reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Again, as I said, this is an FDA claim based on potency in the product. And you can read a little more about that. And that claim is in the literature. We know the new one that came out, I actually have it on my phone here, ready for us. And it was, so I've got it right here. Consuming EPA and DHA combined may help lower blood pressure in the general population and reduce the risk of hypertension or high blood pressure. However, FDA has concluded the evidence is inconsistent and inconclusive. One serving of the omega-3 NHT provides 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA and may reduce blood pressure and reduce the risk of hypertension. And so, again, this evidence that is out there, again, there's debate, but when these statements are put out by governmental bodies, that means a lot. So the other thing that I want to mention is brain health. Brain, we know that high concentrations, I mentioned earlier, how omega-3s are very important when it comes to neurologic development in the womb and for the infant, but that doesn't go away over time. Our body needs omega-3s, and the brain specifically, EPA, DHA, BPA, other types of omega-3s. Those are found in the NHT omega-3 product. What will we see? Focus, concentration, supporting a healthy memory, supporting overall mood and emotion. There have been many, many studies on mood and emotion, on the beneficial aspects of supporting a normal and healthy state for this. And I think especially now, when we think about being stressed, being anxious, many people really struggle with anxiety. First off, exercise. Secondly, meditate, deep breaths, being calm, having relationships, friends, family, spiritual connections, and then appropriate nutrition, avoiding stimulants. If you're feeling nervous or stressed, don't drink a lot of coffee. Certainly avoid soda pop, but also nourish your body. Nourish your body with omega-3s, with the NHT omega-3. High in EPA and DHA, studied in trials to support healthy mood and emotion. And so I think especially today, that's an important one. Joint health. We all want healthy joints. Many of you who heard me talk, I've said, I think, well, since the last time you saw me, I've had my 4th knee surgery on my right knee from sport. So, and I'm doing well. So, but that is just a consequence of an active lifestyle. So like many of you, we get bumps and bruises throughout our lives from living actively. The omega-3s help joints and joint health because they, number one, support the structural integrity of just our overall body, tendons, cartilage, those aspects in general. But secondly, because of the ability to augment what are called eicosanoid and prostaglandin pathways in the body, what we call the arachidonic acid pathway as well. So they're all tied. It's like, I want you to imagine a street that you can go on. One street goes to an area of the city that's calm, and there's parks and there's water and people are having picnics. Now back your car up, and now you're driving down the same street, and you could go the other way. And going the other way results in you going to an area of the city where there's riots and turbulence and things are not going well at all. And it's dangerous. And that is not a place, you don't want to go down that road. And so things are very inflamed in that part of the city. You don't want to take yourself, your family, your car in that direction. You want to go the other way, to the parks, to where the grass is green, the trees, and go swimming in the lake. So the idea, the analogy here, and the question for you is, where would you want to plant your tree? You'd want to plant your tree in the area that's calm, so it's not damaged, and so it grows strong. And that is what the omega-3s do in our body. Why? Because those cellular membranes, actually your body uses pieces of it. It takes pieces on a daily basis, all the time. It takes that fat and drives it into reactions that tells the body and sends signals to either be calm or either to be inflamed and angry and upset. And it's the type of fat that does that. And studies show that if we can increase the amount of omega-3s, that we can help our body drive down that pathway to calm, internal calm, in multiple areas. And we know that when we have chronic joint or health issues, you can just put your hand on your knee or your elbow or your back. You're like, boy, it feels red, it feels warm, it feels swollen, all those things that are tied to it not being calm. So that's why we find tremendous support for joint health. Vision, I mentioned earlier, there are studies that have been kind of mixed. The studies on omegas on the eye, some have found great benefit, others haven't found as much as we thought. But what we know for certain is that the omega-3s play a critical role in natural structure in the eye and have a natural level that they're supposed to be at. And so I recommend the use of omega-3s for general support of vision. We know healthy weight and skin as well. And I want to mention the immune system here before I get to the last point. The omega-3s also play an important point in the immune system. They support the natural function of immune cells. Why? Because, again, they're structurally important. Cytokine signaling and pathways. So for a proper functioning immune system, we need a base level of the omega-3s. And there are studies looking that after someone has a health challenge, especially when the body may internally be maybe all revved up, if the body's all revved up in the lungs or other areas where the body's really angry on the inside, we want to calm it. So if we can calm different organ systems in the body, that will help us have better outcomes. And that's what we're finding in studies. And we've seen in studies with the use of the omega-3s after someone's had an initial insult. So it's just an amazing set of substances. And the omega-3 family, specifically EPA, DHA, DPA, those other omega-3s. But if all those reasons aren't enough, I always end that it's great for a healthy weight and skin. I can mention all the benefits for the heart and the brain and the joint, but once I mention that it's good for your skin and your hair, your hair follicles, people then will be, oh my gosh, well then I'm certainly going to use it. So, I used to not spend much time talking about the beauty aspect of the omega-3s, but they truly are a part of helping our skin be vibrant and glowing, as well as for nails, as well as hair and hair follicles specifically. And so you'll find in Hollywood, the movie stars, omega-3s are a part of all of their beauty regimens. So that's another great reason. Next slide. Oh, Antonella, yes.
Yeah, I would like to know from the attendees, which one out of these 5 key health benefits just presented, which one they're most excited about. So I just launched a question, so we'll see the results very quickly, what they are interested in more. So we'll see. I will close the poll in a few seconds, just curious.
You bet.
Yeah.
There was an interesting poll that was recently taken in looking at what is the largest health concern for people over the age of 50. And it was interesting that, and this was done about a year ago, but it was, the answer to that was people were most concerned, it's a little bit different question than this, but people were most concerned about their minds, keeping a healthy mind as they aged. It was a very insightful question.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that 26% they're more interested in the brain benefits.
Oh, there we go. So this match, look at that. This match, that study that came out about a year ago. And I mean, I said this before I saw your results on the screen. Isn't that interesting?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you see them 18% cardiovascular and joints, healthy weight and skin, and 9%. Yeah.
The one thing that I will mention as well, that I often mention to parents who seek my advice for their children and youngsters, even college students. But when we think about children, even though I'm very, very active in nutrition and wellness, I still struggle like everyone else with trying to have my children eat healthy. And so, at some point, my son just, I have to make broccoli just a certain way or it just won't go down. So, we try to have our children eat healthy as best we can. And he doesn't like many types of fish. He has certain ones he likes, other ones he doesn't. So he's very picky on that. So the omega-3s are critical. But the reason I bring this up is children can be very picky eaters. And then as they get to their teenage years and where we may not be around them as much, or when they go off to college, and they need to be using their brains, right? I mean, they're supposed to be learning, growing, developing, and also at this time, and here's the key point, at this time is also where we are seeing tremendous emotional stress and strain in these young children and young developing adults that we haven't seen in previous decades. You know, part of that is the role of social media and the phone and the email. I mean, really, our children are exposed to all of this digital input all the time. But the psychologists and child psychologists specifically have really talked about how our children are at risk now more than ever because of all of the digital aspects that are coming to them. And we're finding the diagnoses of health challenges, specifically emotional and mood, is just going up. And so let's help our children, let's help our adolescents and college students with their core nutritional needs, but just purely from a brain and function standpoint for emotion and mood, and even for those who may have, for especially young children who may have difficulty concentrating or sitting still in school. I have a friend who is a pediatrician who specializes in nutritional therapies, and really the omegas are such a key part for those kids. And for the older adult, getting in quality high fats, especially if you have older parents who may be more thin, are eating the same things in their diet. And this is a really key point to understand as well. And that is, when we eat the same thing over and over and over in our diets, we're not getting nutritional variety. And so part of the reason we supplement is to fill in the gaps for variety, because those botanical phytonutrients or the omega-3s from certain types of fish or certain levels, that, you know, the diet that doesn't change is one that often has nutritional gaps. So tons of benefits in the omega-3s for all ages. So the omega-3s are really easy to use. You open the bottle, unscrew the cap, and put them down. A little bit of humor there, and I want to say thanks for hanging in there with us. We're getting near the end here, so thanks for your time and attention. The biggest question I get on the omegas really are how much to take, how much and when, and are there any wrong ways to take the product? So just in general, the base amount that we all want to take for adults and older are 2 soft gels. That gives you the 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA plus an additional side helping of other omega-3s that are complementary to the EPA and DHA. That's with 2 of those medium to small size soft gels. For children 4 and older, 1 soft gel daily. And it's important that we take it every day for the rest of our lives. And people often say, for the rest of our lives, really? I'll say, yes, this is an essential nutrient. We need it every single day. So unless you're taking in lots and lots of fish and omegas from other sources, this is likely something you're going to need to do for the long term. I have taken omega-3s for well over a decade. Well, I mean, it's actually pushing 2 decades. I mean, it's honestly pushing almost 2 decades of daily omega-3s where I've almost never missed. And I'd say in the last 10 years, it would be a rarity that I would miss more than 5 days in a year. They're that important for us. And I want my mind, I want my body, I want my joints, I want my skin and my heart. And especially if you're a person who's on the go, in between, if you're doing more activity, if you're doing more work, if you're under more stress, your internal engine is going faster. Your mind is going faster. You've got a lot going on in your life. Sometimes people just equate being busy to actually physically moving, but we can be very busy on the inside and in our minds. So that's the base level, 2 soft gels. Then from there, we increase. Why would we increase? So first off, I always recommend working with your doctor, your personal doctor, on finding the level that's right for you. But we do have general recommendations. And I'll be sending a chart to Antonella. In general, if you're someone who has, like myself, I have a family history of heart challenges in my family. I have personally, I shared some joint issues from sport. So every now and then, you know, when the thunderstorm comes, my knee gets a little creaky, you know, and it can be a little bothersome. So I want to stay ahead of that. I want to focus on healthy skin. I really want to focus on my mind. So I believe that if you're able to do it, 4 soft gels per day, I think is a wonderful level for most adults. And that's an in-between level. And I think that's my maintenance level, okay? If I'm feeling a little more discomfort in my body, then I'll increase from 4 to 6 for a couple weeks. And then I'll back it back down to my maintenance. Maybe your maintenance will be just 2. My maintenance is 4. If you're an individual who has significant body discomfort, emotional or mood challenges, again, work with your doctor. But on those, when someone is dealing with more acute issues, we often find people using the 6 soft gel level. If you're focusing on healthy triglyceride levels in your body, usually that's at a 6 soft gel or 3 gram level. That's what's supported by science. 2 to 3 grams, usually 3. That's what your doctor would recommend. So again, as we start to get into more specialized areas, if you're focusing on brain and memory, 4 per day is a wonderful level. I would, if you can, break them into 2 in the morning and 2 at night. Wait, I'll go the other way. So I'm in the screen. 2 and 2, okay? If you can, take them 10 minutes before breakfast and 10 minutes before supper. Or you could take them 10 minutes before you go to bed. The reason we take them before meals is some people, in some cases, may get a little indigestion. It's very rare, but that's one of the reasons that we recommend taking with food. The other reason is that when we take food, our body's absorptive capacities, our digestive and absorptive gets revved up. And so it can help facilitate the absorption of the nutrients. But there's no wrong way to take the products. The only wrong way is not to take them or not to incorporate omega-3s into your diet. Again, if you are someone who has a dietary journal, who's eating lots and lots of fish, who's taking in lots of omega-3s in the diet already, 2 for you as a maintenance level would be great. If someone says to me, hey, I eat lots of fish, I say, great, use 2. Because likely when we think about what we're supposed to be getting in, it's just the base level. The base level is at 2. That meets your nutritional requirements. That meets the requirements for the cardiovascular claims we talked about earlier. But that's really just keeping us level. We want to then build our stores. We want to increase the level. And we know that there's an association with increased levels and various health benefits. So they're very, very safe. One of the things that I often get asked are side effects and otherwise. The omega-3s are very safe. One thing I will mention is that if you're on a blood thinner, that's a question I often get. Are they safe? Omega-3s have been used with blood thinners very, very safely in many, many people. If you're taking a high level of omega-3s, and that's usually 4 grams, 5 grams or more, that's when there can be an augmentation or an impact on blood clotting, and you'd want to check with your doctor. But here's the key point, is that if you're on a blood thinner, you should be routinely checking your blood, your INR, the international normalized ratio, or what's used in your country, on the thinness of your blood. So no matter if you have changes in your diet, if you're adding a new supplement other than the omega-3, or if the omega-3 is going to be new to you, be sure to check routinely if you're seeing a change. That's just good common sense, and that's just good practice. And we want to always be safe. The other thing that I'll say is that I have talked to thousands and thousands of people around the world who've used the omega-3s successfully. 99.9% of the time, people are able to use the product wonderfully with wonderful results. However, in rare instances, in some people, sometimes, for some reason, it just doesn't agree with their body, and that's okay. Not every product, every single time, and all people is going to work for them or agree with them. And so I bring that up simply because it's important that if for some reason someone's not having a good experience, that we encourage them to stop. But that's very, very rare. And it's very important also for formulators and manufacturers and companies to say that. We would never want someone who's not having a good experience to continue, or having, for some reason, an allergic reaction, for example, to continue. But the good news, the great news, is that in thousands and thousands of people around the world, we have wonderful, wonderful experiences, reports of benefit, documented, and it's just a wonderful formulary that is safe, natural, and one that is pure and potent, and that is well received by many people around the globe. Next slide. Or other questions, Antonella? This slide touches on upcoming webinars. Here we go. So this slide really touches on the power of synergy when we think about the Tree of Health concept. And really, we're trying to develop a system and a program to support the root level, that root level for our bodies, to support wonderfully and strong growing branches with blooms and leaves, and that withstand the blowing of the wind, back to our Tree of Health analogy. The omega-3, the Stem Renew, and the Restore products all work in different ways. And because of that, they have a synergy that together they are additively more than individually. And that's called synergy. That's like when you get all these players on a team, individually they may do great, but you get all these players on a team together and they can go for the championship. And so that's what we've put together here with the Tree of Health. These are products that I use daily, that are part of my nutritional regimen to help my body support its normal and healthy state, and to really help my body harness its own potential. And that's what I want for all of you. And so thank you so very much for your time and attention on today's webinar on the omega-3 from NHT. Truly a foundational product for your health and wellness for the long term. I'll hand it over to Antonella at this point.
Thank you, Ben, for the training on omega-3 essential fatty acids. I see there are some questions, just very quickly we can address. One was about the, okay, Elizabeth was asking if omega-3 is better taken in the evening and can aid for better sleep.
So we have had people who have reported that using the omega-3s at night can help them in their sleep. Again, the studies on this from a scientific basis and going into, I would tie it into the natural biorhythm of some people's bodies. And so I would encourage her to try it, that we have had people where that has been their experience. So go ahead and try, absolutely.
Okay, and another question was about the difference of omega coming from algae compared to...
Right, and so the good news here, guys, is that when we think about where EPA and DHA and really marine oils come from, so I talked about earlier the harvesting of the fish from the sea and trying to use smaller sized fish and life cycle and so on and so forth for purity. The omega-3s, the EPA and DHA in the fish actually come from the algae that they bring into their bodies. And so the great news is, I know there have been some products out there promoting the use of algae only or algae derived omega-3, but the great news is that those are marine based as well. One of the nice things about often in fish, that some people like the fact that they are then incorporated into the fish and they go through the natural metabolism in the fish, and they're in essence have gone through another step in a living organism. Some people really like that. Other people will say, I just want it not in the fish, I want it directly from algae because of personal beliefs or otherwise. From if they don't eat fish in their diet. The challenge with just direct algae-derived omega-3s is they're usually much more expensive. It's a more expensive harvesting system and process. And so at the end of the day, it's the amount of omega-3s that we want. Right. We want that EPA and DHA level up. And so the great news is that ours indirectly is from algae. It goes through the fish. It's bioaccumulated the way that the fish takes in the algae, and it's accumulated in the fish. And so they in essence are very, very similar, not exactly the same. But if you trace back to where the fish got their omega-3s, it was from the algae.
Okay. So if you have
Antonella, could I just say one other thing? Just on the question of source, I often get asked the question, well, what about like avocados and vegetable-based walnuts with pecans, olive oil? So these are source of vegetable omega-3s. And so remember I had mentioned earlier about how a woman's body can convert omega-3s to EPA and DHA better than a man's because of childbearing. What's important, I want you to think, and I also talked earlier about a soccer team. So like my son is turning 10 on July 4th, the 4th of July. So my son plays soccer. He's not a professional soccer player. He's in grade school. So he'll play in grade school and he'll get better, and then he'll play in junior high, he'll play in high school, hopefully plays in college, and who knows, right? But he's going and he's gaining and converting. So you could say he's converting, right? He's converting from a grade school player to a junior high, from junior high to high school, from high school then to college. But that's a conversion. In the omega-3 family, the omega-3s that are found in vegetables, again, they are omega-3s and they are beneficial, just like my son's a soccer player. And he's good, but he's not a professional. And so the omega-3s found in avocados have to be converted by the body to EPA and DHA. So they have to go through steps. And there are different types of omega-3s. Now, they themselves have benefit for the body, there's no question. But their potency, their strength, and their overall benefit is felt not to be as much as the EPA and DHA and those more potent, in essence, professional omega-3s, but they're certainly healthy for the body. But we know that they don't have that strength and potency like in the scientific backing like the other ones do of EPA, DHA. And so that's a real important distinction. And a man's body, from a conversion standpoint, only converts anywhere between 1 and 10%. So very, very little of those vegetable-based omega-3s to EPA and DHA. And so men who are vegetarians especially, and who don't eat fish, they really need to supplement with an EPA and DHA omega-3, because that really could be a hole in their body.
Okay.
Women as well, interestingly enough, in menopause, after menopause, the woman's body drops in conversion rates to the same as a man's. So around childbearing, they're around 30%. Once they're post-puberty and up through the end of childbearing, they convert about between 20 and 35%. depending upon the person, but multiples more than the man. But post-menopause, their conversion processes drop. And there's speculation and theory that this drop in their conversion may be some of the reasons that we see some changes in a woman's health post-menopause that are somewhat dramatic. So very important, especially for a woman post-menopause.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben, for the training. And if you have any